All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Pleb Underground, the most hated Bitcoin only podcast. Thank you very much for joining me. We've got an awesome episode today, guys. That's right. Paper Bitcoin summer full steam ahead. So, Italian MP discusses the possibility of a Bitcoin reserve. But wait, we're actually going to take a look at this story. There's a little more nuance to it. U.S. Vice President, right? J.D. Vance, he holds Bitcoin. It was a pretty interesting conversation that he had because you see, he holds Bitcoin, but he's talking a lot about crypto, right? So kind of interesting, right? What is it that he's doing, and what is it that he's telling people about? So anyways, we're going to take a look at that as well. The Smarter Web company out of the UK, that's right, they issued a $21 million denominated convertible bond, which means somebody's going to be dumping shares at some point in the future. Or they're going to redeem those bonds for cash at some point in the future. Whatever. Anyways, the point is that, yeah, it's just that. Anyway, I know. It's all about the nuance in the words, but it doesn't make a difference. Okay, out of Japan, all of a sudden, right? There's all kinds of news coming out of Japan, right? There's this SBI company that's that's supposedly going to be doing a Bitcoin ETF. There's this other Japanese company called ANAP that I think does like web design. I mean, is it over for Metasplat? Is that it? Metasplat has this competition. Does that really mean anything? Well, we'll take a look at the news and see if it actually means anything. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think it does. Anyways, the last piece, guys, is we're going to be taking a look at the verdict for Tornado Cash and what it means. There was also a space held yesterday by the Rage and Lola Leets and David Morris, I believe, and a few other people. Essentially, the people and media outlets that are covering what's been happening with the Samurai trial and the Tornado Cash trial. Yeah, this does starts to set a precedent, right, for the industry and for personal freedom and privacy. So definitely got to take a look at it. Yeah, he that's funny. David Morris kind of does look like a Saved by the Bell dude. Very professional, though, right? Very professional. Anyways, all right, guys, that's it. We got a whole lot to dive into. We're going to do it. You know the deal. We're going to show some love to the Pleb Underground sponsor, and we are going to be right back to dive into all the fun. Here we go. Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium. Okay, that's right. So you may have seen this floating around the Twitter sphere, right? The Italian MP says it's inevitable that they will have to discuss establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And of course, right, we're supposed to be selling hopium, right? This is paper Bitcoin summer. So really, we're not supposed to be thinking about what this actually means. We're supposed to be thinking about how we feel when we read this. Anyways, yeah. So the member of parliament from Fratelli d'Italia, Brothers of Italy, shared his views on crypto taxation, the idea of a national Bitcoin reserve, and what mass adoption might look like in one of Europe's most mature crypto markets. I want you to think about that for a second. They're saying it's one of the most mature crypto markets, but yet they don't really have a framework for a lot of this stuff, and they're only building this framework out. So it's a bit of a disparity between what's being said and what's actually real, which should be no surprise. I mean, it's par for the course. This is what it's like to be a human. All right, so let's see what he actually said, though, right? Well, how close is this? So he believes it's inevitable. Yeah, he believes it's inevitable that the topic will come up. Sorry, guys, I see comments pop up, and then I read them quickly, and then anyway, I'm gonna. All right, sorry, didn't mean to stop myself in that one. Italy holds one of the largest gold reserves globally, but that doesn't mean we can't diversify. There's no budget classification for seized or confiscated crypto assets. Now, keep in mind what we just saw, right? It's one of the most mature crypto markets, but yet there's no budget classification for the seized or confiscated crypto assets. So again, right, this disparity, which is just nothingness. No centralized oversight or accounting. Again, the most mature crypto market, right? If Bitcoin is treated as part of the diversified strategy, we need a way to track and evaluate it. Where's all this maturity? It's like maturity usually requires frameworks. Anyways, we'll need to decide, should we liquidate these assets or retain them as part of the state's patrimony? The term, so this is funny right here, the term strategic reserve sounds impressive, and he's right. Right? He's calling it what it is. It's just hopium. But technically, these assets already fall under the umbrella of state property, just like state-owned buildings. So yeah, you know, if we're sitting here and we're thinking, oh, you know, there's going to be some, you know, some magical timeline, how this is going to be happening sooner than later in Italy, guys, I wouldn't hold my breath. I wouldn't hold my breath. It sounds like they still need to actually develop a framework. And again, I'm not saying, oh, this is never happening and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not about that. It's about having reasonable expectations, right? So that way you don't sit there and FUD yourself out of your own bags. So yeah, they got a ways to go. It sounds good, but at the same time, the tone I'm reading is, we have to deal with it because we have to deal with it, but we don't really care. They seem to be much more impressed with their gold reserves. They see it as just, you know, simply diversifying. So again, right, like to people like us, Bitcoiners like us, where we sit there, we look at Bitcoin and we think, you know, we think the world of it. This is not the global perception here. So, you know, just good to take a step back. Okay. Anyways, moving on to the next topic. Let's take a look at. We'll watch this clip from JD Vance and see what he had to say in this interview.
Speech was a big hit. And I know a lot of smart people love crypto. I know some smart people actually have reservations about it. Sure. For our audience, can you just kind of make the case for crypto? And
okay, I'm going to be annoying. It's not smart people. It's smart people like Bitcoin, right? Grifters and salesmen love crypto. Sorry, I have to always interject.
People who have, you know, concerns and quite frankly don't even understand it. There are a lot of folks out there. I know a lot of people own it, but
yeah, of course. So look, I'm an owner of Bitcoin here, but I'm also the vice president of the United States. So I want to be careful, but I think
I'm the owner of Bitcoin here, but I'm also the vice president. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys, right? Because that doesn't mean nothing. Okay, when he's saying that, it's because he needs you to understand that there are two separate roles. There is what he believes, and there's what he has to portray, right? How perception needs to be received.
the core value proposition of cryptocurrency is that it's a way of transacting and a way of storing value in a modern digital age. Look, 100 years ago, if you wanted to go and buy something, you put a dollar bill on the table, you put a gold coin on the table. The value proposition of Bitcoin is that it can serve the same function, but in a digital age, a way that's secure, that's safer from fraud, that allows people to buy and sell and store value, but in a way that's
Bitcoin does that. It's only Bitcoin that does this.
Consistent with the modern technological age that we live in. Now, having said that, I fully accept there are risks to all of these things. There are always risks to new technologies. Our approach in the Trump administration is to say, let people innovate. Let people figure this stuff out on their own. If the critics of Bitcoin are right, I happen to think that they're wrong. That will eventually win out in the marketplace. If the advocates of Bitcoin are right, and I happen to agree with them, if they make their case, that's eventually going to win out in the marketplace. What you shouldn't have is a dictatorial government that tells certain industries they're not allowed to do what they need to do. You've got to let people make these decisions on their own, and that's sort of been our approach. We want common sense regulation.
Okay. So, I mean, look, I can appreciate that, right? I can appreciate his messaging. Okay. We want people to make their own decisions. That's right. That's part of free markets, right? Like I don't sit there and think like, oh my gosh, you know, these shit coins should be illegal. I don't want the state to have more power. That's nonsense, right? People need to be able to make their own decisions. So the other piece to that is that there needs to be information on both sides, right? Like there are obviously the cheerleaders of certain products, and then there are the people who frame those products objectively with pros and cons, and the average person can then go and make their decision. But make no mistake, he's saying crypto, but he's buying and holding Bitcoin. This is, to me, that's the signal in all of that, right? Like that's the whole point of that. Anyways, all right, good little video. Let's move on, because guys, Paper Bitcoin Summer doesn't just stop because we're playing a JD Vance video. No, that's right. Paper Bitcoin Summer marches on. Okay, so the smarter web company. Let's take a look at the smarter web company here. Okay, so just in, right? The Smarter Web Company launches 21 million Bitcoin-denominated convertible bond, fully subscribed by institutional investor Tobam. The interest-free bond allows conversion to equity at a 5% premium, including BTC-based downside protection, and caps BTC acquired to 30% of the treasury, a first of its kind capital raise for the UK markets. Okay. I mean, look, it sounds good, right? Again, another announcement. A company is creating, whether it is short-term debt or long-term debt, whatever financial instrument it's doing, that they're not using cash that they already have. Okay, they're creating a form of debt in the future to purchase Bitcoin today under the guise that they are going to be able to weather storms and be able to hang on to that Bitcoin, and hopefully, right, in the future, be able to dilute their shareholders further, because that's pretty much what I've seen from every single one of these companies. For the most part. Yeah, once again, let's just I noticed that there seems to be a pattern, right, with a lot of these businesses that are announcing that they're buying Bitcoin, right? The negative shareholder equity, less than $1 million in revenue, right? I mean, the high volatility of the share price just doesn't surprise me. I know we're supposed to be excited about all these companies, right? The people that are selling you this crap are just, making it sound like these companies are the next, the next best thing, since sliced bread. But I don't buy it, guys. I am not here buying this. But anyways, moving on, right? The what's going on in Japan, right? Supposedly Japan is going Bitcoin crazy. All of a sudden, these two announcements, right? SBI Holdings, right? Giant SBI Holdings files to launch a Bitcoin ETF. Whoa, that sounds amazing. But is that accurate? Is that accurate? Not so much. Not so much. Yep. It's not fun, right? It's not fun when you're not lying to people to make them feel good. So look at that. SBI Holdings unveils a plan for exchange traded product, including gold crypto ETF and a Bitcoin XRP dual ETF. Huh. That doesn't sound the same as that. Doesn't sound the same as that at all. Not even close. All right. So the company outlined plans for two crypto-based ETF products. The first product proposal combines gold and crypto asset ETFs bundled into a trust. This would allocate 51% into gold-based ETFs and 49% into crypto asset ETFs, such as Bitcoin ETFs, offered as an investment trust in Japan. The second proposal combines two top cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and XRP. The company plans to list the product on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. I don't know about you guys, but none of that sounded like this. It didn't sound like that at all. Unsurprising, though. Unsurprising. And just so you know, the reason why I do this kind of stuff is because when I first came into this space, right, this is what I would see too. I thought that I could trust the people that that were Bitcoiners that were putting out Bitcoin news. But then what happened was that I started to go and read the articles that they were supposedly, pointing to, and lo and behold, the story didn't match what was actually happening. So, yep. It's not fun. It's not fun to be a truth teller, but at least, right, we don't get wrecked with a bunch of hopium that makes no sense. At least we have an accurate depiction of what's actually happening in reality. All right, moving on. That's right, DCA to BTC. Hard hodl knows. Hard hodl knows. This is how it works. Okay, next, the other Japanese company. Another Japanese company. Let's go take a look at this thing. So the ANAP purchased 82.33 BTC and now has a total of 913 Bitcoin. Oh, wow. Might want to buy some of their shares, right? All right. Well, here's the ANAP long chart. Okay, this is their monthly chart. So to understand that very simply, every one of these candle formations that you see is a month of price action. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what is this pattern I'm looking at? What is this pattern? This is the pattern of a pump and dump. Okay? Pumps and it dumps. Then it pumps, dumps, pumps, dumps. Oh, look, they bought Bitcoin. It pumps. Can anyone tell me? Can anyone guess what comes next for this company? It's, guys, this time it's not different. I am so sorry. This time it's not different. I know. Nobody likes the truth tellers. Oh, you know what? Just for the sake of it, let's see what, let's go take a look at what their little financial picture looks like. A little snapshot of the financial picture for ANAP Holdings. All right. So their latest financial report is more than a year old. So I don't think anybody's actually auditing that. Shareholders have been substantially diluted because how else do we keep the lights on for companies that really aren't making any money and doesn't have a meaningful market cap? Anyways, look, I'm sure that it's totally going to change. I am sure that this pattern is not what continues going into the future. This pattern will change now that they've decided to buy Bitcoin, right? That's what we're thinking, right? The pattern's going to change. I don't know if I buy that. Anyways, moving on, guys, to our the final story here. We've got this clip of David Morris talking about the verdict for Tornado Cash.
Hi, everybody. This is David. We have a verdict in USA v. Storm. It is a mixed verdict. It's really complicated, and there's a lot to talk about, but generally it is good news. On counts 1 and 3 against Roman, the conspiracy to commit money laundering and to violate sanctions, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. On those charges, we essentially have a mistrial. On the second charge, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmission business, we do have a guilty verdict. However, that charge has been forked and changed a bit. Also, the maximum sentence there is 5 years. Additionally, there was a move by the prosecution to remand Roman to state custody. That was overturned, or that was denied. So Roman will be free on bail while the appeals process goes on and until sentencing. Judge Fila emphasized that there was a great deal of fighting left to do before we get to sentencing. We will obviously continue to cover that. But split decision, no unanimous verdict on charges 1 and 3, guilty verdict on charge 2, the MTB charge. We will be filling in on that as we move forward. Thanks everybody for.
Yeah, the money transmission license. Okay, so what does this mean, right? Like, what do we extrapolate from this? There was a space, like I said at the beginning of the show, there was a Twitter space, which all of these links, they are going to be in the show notes. If you guys want to go back, the space was recorded. I don't know how long it was. I think it lasted just about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, where they explained essentially what they were thinking about the trial. When I say they, I'm talking about The Rage magazine, David Morris, Lowell Leitz, and a few of the other people that are covering and following this story on Twitter. And essentially, right, the takeaway from all this, right, even though it's kind of a mixed bag, right, and it's somewhat of a win, right, this sets a precedent, right, because and you guys will see if you decide to listen to that space, what ended up happening was the prosecution in this case kept essentially kept trying to implicate people that wrote code. Okay. And specifically why this is dangerous, okay, is because imagine this, right? Imagine you write a program, but let's say you're a student or something, right? You write this little program. It doesn't, to you, it doesn't do anything. But 15, 20 years down the line, somebody picks up on this code and realizes that they can do something malicious with it, right? You never had that intention. You wrote some code. Well, guess what? What the prosecution was attempting to do was make it so that if you were the one that wrote the code, you are now responsible as well as the criminal who used it, because there could have been criminal intent, right? You may have known that this code could have been used maliciously. This is insane, okay? That is some serious dystopian panopticon psycho shit. I can't explain it any other way. I'm sorry. I wish I could have used, better, more sophisticated words, but that is nuts. Okay. It totally scares the hell out of me. Because where does that end? Right? Like essentially it just becomes a giant prison planet, right? Because couldn't it be argued that the notepad application could be used for nefarious means? What about copy paste? Right? Or the copy paste function. What about the guy who created Excel? Right? Can't that be used nefariously? Like it's wild what these implications would be. So yes, we are paying attention to this trial. I know that this is not, fun stuff and talking about how Bitcoin's going to go to $10 billion and all of our dreams are going to come true. But guys, personal freedom is really, really important. Okay. And these types of situations, unfortunately, dictate the levels of personal freedom that we could have going forward. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I will catch you tomorrow. Got a special guest, right? Got Kit Satz. She started a company called Golden Tallow, and obviously making all these awesome tallow products. So we're going to talk tallow tomorrow. We're going to talk about tallow. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Peace.